Well, welcome back to the Kickbutt Leadership, Kickbutt Leadership Live Conference. And I'm Coni Meyers with Kickbutt Leadership, and this is my co-host,
Kim White with the My Sexy Business team.
And at the moment, we're going to have one of my favorite princesses as my co-host and my guest. For those of you that don't know too much about Kim, she has what's called My Sexy Business. And I'm going to have her explain that in a minute. But I just want to say from a personal standpoint, what this woman has meant to me in my life.
Don't make me cry.
I won't make you cry. We don't want our mascara to run.
No.
But she came into my life by surprise. And I've been grateful ever since. I think the first time we had a conversation, it was about, we talked about vision. We talked about what it was that she wanted for her life and what I wanted for my life. And 4 years later, we're both living it. So the Kickbutt Leadership is a culmination of a conversation. Actually, she reminded me about many times. She's reminded me, I might add. She keeps bringing it up, and this was your idea, this was your vision, and I say yes, it was. But Kickbutt Leadership would have never happened if I hadn't had a conversation with Kim. And Kim is all about business. She does not mince words. She knows business inside out, upside down, and backwards. She was do you mind if I tell a little bit about you? Okay.
You're going to anyway.
I'm going to anyway. Exactly. So she owned an oil company that she started on her kitchen table in Oklahoma. So I want you to just imagine a princess in the oil industry in Oklahoma and what that must have been like. And I'm going to ask her a couple questions about that in a minute. But for somebody to be able to shine and outshine all of the testosterone that's in that industry is, and that's exactly what she did, is something to behold and to admire. And what she has done since the oil company, with everything that she's doing now, she's changing people's lives everywhere. So, Kim, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you learned owning an oil company?
Well, I learned that I needed to be who I really was. I had the option when I first started to try to fit in. Everyone else was wearing, black suits and I was on the land work side, so I was on the paperwork side of the oil field, and that deals with attorneys and high level people who show up in suits and show up in all that. And I had to decide if I wanted to fit into that system or if I was going to really be true to my princess self, without disrespect. Like, I wasn't trying to be disrespectful to them either, but I did. I showed up in my pink silk suit and my pink calculator and my pink briefcase, and I learned to be me no matter how hard it was, because at first it was really hard. It was something that was definitely frowned upon, and
I'm sure they didn't know what to make of you.
No. And they kind of made fun of me, really, more than anything. Is, who do you think you are? And I'm thinking the whole time, that's something that negative self-talk, throughout my lifetime was, who do you think you are to be doing this? And I would reframe that by, who do I think I'm not? I mean, why can't I do this? Why can't I, do that? And I've laughed and I've said something that's not really a great saying, but I will just say, I've always said that I wasn't smart enough to know better, so I just did it. And that's exactly what I did. Is I showed up as a princess in a man's world and took a lot of flack for a little bit, and then they figured out that I was not a stupid princess.
No, I think I love when you tell the story. She really used her pink and her princess to not just win over people, but also to make her case and win her cases. Mm-hmm. And they were caught completely off guard as to who she really was. And I think we're talking about Kickbutt Leadership, and I think Kickbutt Leadership is really all about being mindful of who we are and our surroundings, and being able to adapt by using techniques and practices that will help you. But Kim did it innately. She did it without really putting a title to it. She just did it because she didn't know what she didn't know. and that's one of the things that I admire most about her. She talks about owning an office building. How long did you have that office building?
Way too long. Like, it wasn't a long span of time, but it was way too long for my world, because I was sitting in the conference room looking out the big glass window, which all those were the things that I had set as a goal and I wanted. And I was looking out over the lake and the sun's coming up, and I realized the sun had gone down while I was sitting looking out those windows as well. And I realized that I couldn't leave. There was no travel, like there was no anything. The little bit of traveling I did was all work, which, I like to work, but I needed a life. I did not have a life at that point. And I didn't realize that it was costing me my health. It was costing me everything, because I was consumed with the picture of what a sexy business would look like, but it wasn't sexy at all. Because if a business does not give you the sexy life, then it's not sexy. And so I had created an ugly business, is exactly what I had done. It wasn't that it wasn't working. It wasn't that it wasn't, it was that it was going to take my life if I kept staying. And so I made a decision that was really hard, but I think it was the right one. And now I for sure know it was the right one.
Well, I think the way that you have transitioned yourself and created My Sexy Business. So it's My Sexy Business, so that you can have how do you say that? My Sexy Business.
We help you create a sexy business for a sexy life.
There you go. So along with that, one of the most difficult things that we all have is trying to deal with time. Mm-hmm. There's, even I do it. I say all day long, gosh, there just isn't enough time to get everything done. Or like my big saying now, and I need to reframe it, is that as I get older, I'm moving slower and time is moving faster. When in reality, that is not true.
It's not true.
So there's 525,600 minutes in a year. There's 40,080 minutes in a month. There's 10,800 minutes in a week. And there's 1,440 minutes in a day. We all have that same amount of time. And it's how we perceive that time.
Yes.
So how have you, throughout your career, both with the oil fields and with what you're doing now, how have you dealt with time?
Well, first, I think time management is an illusion, because time is going to be exactly the same pace no matter what we do or don't do. And so I think when you discover that you can't control time, then you got to control yourself. Am I going to use the next 10 minutes for the best of what my priority or my goal is? Or am I going to squander that 10 minutes? I think you definitely want to put time in your calendar that you can do nothing. Like, I don't want to give the illusion either that, I've got every minute just marked out and, but I get more done than most people because I honor the fact that I'm given this time to do something. And influence is very serious to me. And if I'm influential in a period of time, then I've used it for the right and the best thing I can use it for. If I, watch a marathon, which I'm going to tell you I have, watch a marathon of TV and not done something else. I mean, that's another thing about time is it does not spare anyone. It does not come back. You can't get it back. You spend it on wise things or you spend it on poor things, but you spend it either way.
That's right. You can't bank it. There's no banking time.
About probably 28 years ago, I decided to take a sticky note, like a little pad of sticky notes, and go through my house and write down what time robbers were. Because I realized that my time was being robbed because I wasn't paying attention. And so I went through, and I had 2 little boys at the time who we made a game of it. But I was very serious about spending quality time with my kids. I was very serious about teaching them the right ways and playing with them and doing things with them. And I would get to the end of the day and I'd be so exhausted that, it seemed like everything was just in a whirl. My weeks were passing so quickly. So I went through the house with this sticky notepad and wrote time robber on everything that was keeping me from my boys. TV. There was a whole list of things that I did. And I will tell you, I made a decision then to give up TV. Now, I still watch TV some. I still, I don't want to give the wrong illusion either. But for probably 25 of the last 28 years, I really didn't watch TV. And the average person watches, I think it's like 8 hours of TV a week. You can do the math. 8 hours a week times 52 weeks in a year times 25 years. Guess what? I got a lot done in the time that I would have been just vegging out.
Right. So, well, I think it's really important that people truly understand what is taking their time and what is worthwhile and what isn't worthwhile. In the Kickbutt Leadership course, I talk about the Greek philosophers that actually came up with the whole idea of time. And they had two concepts. One of them was chrono, which is chronological, or the calendar as we know it today. The other one is kairos, which is about the in the moment and the opportune time. And really that's what Kickbutt Leadership and mindfulness is about, is being in the moment and finding the opportunity in that moment. So if we can switch the way we think about time, and one of the things I really stress throughout the course is that you're not adding more things to your calendar. You are incorporating things in the time that is already there to create the opportunity that is waiting. So, like, for example, on your calendar, you've got a phone call you need to make. Well, just the 2 minutes before, you just stop and you breathe and prepare yourself. What do you want to see the outcome of that phone call be? And if you want to have a meeting, as you're walking to the meeting, you don't have to have your eyes shut to breathe. We all breathe all day long. It's just paying attention to it. And taking the couple minutes it's taking you to get to that meeting to breathe and think about what you want the outcome to be. That actually helps you save time. And it's been proven that if you start a meeting with some kind of mindfulness practice, I have a dear friend who starts every one of her strategic planning meetings. She started a book club. And at the beginning of the meeting, they take 5 minutes to talk about the book club about the book. Because what that does, that brings everybody to the meeting. They're talking about the book. Or somebody else I know, they go around and they ask something personal of each person each day, because that gets them out of whatever they were doing before or what they're going to be doing after the meeting. And it's been shown that meetings happen faster and they'll take less time, so you're going to save time. They also showed they're more creative. And let's face it, if a meeting is more creative, it's also going to be more productive. So all of those things, if we can switch from the chrono to the kairos and look for that opportunity, which is exactly, I think, what I've been around you a lot now, and I've observed a lot. And let me tell you, she's hard working, and she makes everybody else hard work. But it's all good hard work. But she actually kind of does that naturally. There's a lot of things she does innately that she doesn't even know she's doing it. I pointed out to her that this is this and this is that, but she does it because of who she is. And just incorporating those few little things, like she'll take time to pet her dog. Well, what does that do? That takes you out of what you were thinking about and brings you into whatever it is you're going to be doing next, like this interview.
Well, and I think listening is a big part of the problems in a meeting. When I would go into a negotiation, it wasn't to, my first goal wasn't to win at all costs. That was one of the things that was different about how I negotiated things. And I would listen to what they needed, because most of the time what they needed could be accomplished by what I needed for my client. It didn't always have to be, this big battle of, I'm going to win, and I'm going to win. And, sometimes they would come in and try to bully me because, they underestimated me right off, because I wasn't showing up as a show off, and I wasn't showing up as, but I did do well with what I was doing. And they would always tell me, you're not right, we're right. Why do you think you're right? And I would always tell them, I might be wrong, but I'd like to show you why I think I'm right about something. And it always blew their mind, because I wasn't aggressive back, and I was listening to what they needed. A lot of times they just needed to win. It didn't matter what it actually was, the bottom line. They wanted to win. And so if I let them win, but my client got what they wanted, that's a win-win.
Exactly.
So listening during a meeting, no matter what kind of a meeting, if you're not paying attention to the people you're in the room with, I think it prolongs meetings. I think it makes people
Absolutely
strive to be heard, whereas you can listen to them and they'll settle down, because, and you have to have parameters with that. You can't let people just whine or, bring negative to the meeting. But when you really hear what they're saying, a lot of times it will settle them down and say, okay, I'll listen to you because you listened first to me. And as a leader, I think that's a key thing.
Absolutely.
Is we need to listen first.
Absolutely. I think, and some tips, because some people don't really know how to listen. First of all, when you're listening, you're not thinking about what you're going to say next.
Mm-hmm.
That's number one. Eye contact is critical. And being able to really hear what somebody is saying, you need to be able to make eye contact. You need to be in the present moment, not thinking about what's down the road. Mm-hmm. And then being able to really almost, it's called mirroring. You want to be postured so the person that is speaking recognizes that you are truly hearing them. And I think we've all had an experience where we've been talking with somebody, and all of a sudden we realize, oh my gosh, they are really hearing what I have to say.
Yeah.
What that does as a Kickbutt leader, first of all, when you're actually hearing what somebody says, you're actually going to come up with new ideas. Mm-hmm. You're going to get that you're not going to forget or miss something you need to be hearing. Mm-hmm. All those things save you time. All those things make you more money because you're more productive. So listening, I believe, is one of the skills that is absolutely critical, and it's one of the ones that most people overlook.
They just don't do it.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, you think, well, I don't have time to listen. There's, let's say there's 10 people on the team in the room, and I don't have time to listen to 10 people. But that's not really true, because if you spend 10 minutes at the beginning listening to even one thing from each of them, then you actually can shorten the meeting by a great deal, because Absolutely. When it's your turn to talk, they realize that you invested in them that few minutes, you care what's going on with them, and then they want to listen hard back. And I think that's the difference, is we listen kind of lightly. Let me check my phone while I'm talking to you. Let me do this other thing while I'm listening to you. Well, that's not really listening.
No.
There's a hard listening where you actually hear what they're saying. You are feeling what they're feeling. You are really caring about that person. And people know if you are or not.
Oh, yeah. They can tell.
They will call, BS real quick on if you are blowing them off.
Well, let's take an example of somebody that maybe is going to have to change. There's some kind of change going on in their organization, and they have to, there's some kind of conflict, because usually when there's change, there's always some kind of conflict that shows up. If the person who is the leader, it brings each person in and says to them, you have 10 minutes of my undivided attention. And I want to hear what you see as the problems, And then I want to hear what you feel are the solutions. And if somebody is uptight about whatever that change is, all of a sudden you've disarmed them, because now they feel like they're being heard. Whether you do what they suggest or not does not matter. It's the fact that they've actually been heard, and being able to, and then you can go about your business making the right decision. But also, if it's a team, the team all knows they've been heard. And now they're looking at it as a team rather than, well, this is going to change this part for my life, or this is going to do this to me, or this is going to change my position. And instead, they're looking at it as a team, and how the team can move forward, and then it's a benefit to everybody.
Well, and I think when you're at a level of CEO, or you're the leader of the team, or whatever position, you have a position. When you're in that position, if you set the standard for they have access to really you listening to them and being heard, I think it sets the standards of more loyalty. I think it creates things for them that you can't create in another way. If they feel like they're following you just because they have to, there's no loyalty in that.
No, absolutely not.
I think listening actually can create that loyalty, and they'll come along with you when they understand. You listen to them for 10 minutes each, and then you come together and you say, I've heard these things from you all, but now let me tell you why this change has to happen. What this is going to do and how it will change. It will be a change, but we as leaders have to make changes. We have to be the first.
Absolutely. There's a group that I'm a part of called Awesome Females in Real Estate. And it's always held at the Indian Reservation, Fort McDowell Indian Reservation, right outside of Scottsdale, Arizona. And we always start the sessions. It's an Indian tradition that you go by the seasons of your birthday, and we get into circles. And in that circle, everybody has not everybody, there's one feather. And each person, Bernice will ask a question or a topic that we're going to talk about in that circle. And the person holding the feather is the person that speaks. No one else is supposed to react. All we're supposed to do is listen to what that person has to say. Maybe it's a struggle, maybe it's a win, whatever it is, but we are there to listen and to not give feedback. And let me tell you, the first couple of times I did that, I wanted to reach out and help somebody. It was hard to just be still and truly listen. But it is such a gift to everyone at this retreat that we do, our conference, because you get to speak about something that's really on your heart. It can be something wonderful or something sad, but no matter what, that there's however many people in that circle, and it never leaves the circle. So you feel totally safe in being there. I think if you translate that to meetings and what a difference it would make in how people move forward. So maybe it's a project you're working on, and so maybe it isn't a circle, but you get together and you have one person that gets to speak and nobody else gets to comment. What a difference that would make in a lot of how things get moved forward.
And you think that would make it longer. That's the key to what I want to help you reframe in your mind if you haven't practiced this, is it actually takes less time once they feel listened to. And you can't do it fake. I will say that too. This is not something to fake.
No, you can't.
But when you listen to them and you repeat back to them, that's another practice of, I hear you saying this, and make sure you're really hearing what they're saying, because there's something that happens sometimes from one person's mouth to your ears that gets twisted. And if you repeat it back and they're allowed to clarify something, or they're allowed to, I think that just works magic in a meeting, because then all of a sudden, not just that meeting is better, but every meeting you have with that person.
Absolutely.
You've established a relationship. You've established it on a different way. And, CEOs like, Tammy, she's got 30,000 people. She's not going to be able to listen to 30,000 people for 10 minutes. That's why there's team leaders, and that's why there's different
levels.
But the level that you are the one speaking in the meetings, like a board meeting, make sure that you are really connecting and really, and you might not even like them. I'm going to be honest. If someone is not like you, sometimes you don't like them. Like, they have strengths that you need on your team, but maybe you don't really like their personality. They rub you wrong.
Right.
It doesn't mean you shouldn't be kind. It doesn't mean you shouldn't listen. Because as you begin to listen, you might find out why you feel that way. And it's really usually about you. Like, they rub you wrong because there's something about you don't like that's like that.
Right. Exactly.
And
exactly.
So that, like, just causes so much magic. I use that word all the time, but it just causes so much, it lessens the time frame. It causes more cohesiveness, and it causes a togetherness that you cannot get without listening.
I interviewed Cindy O'Keefe, who is the assistant general manager for the Golden Nugget properties. They have 15 properties around the country. And she's at the top level. And she makes sure that every new hire, no matter where they are, if they're not in Las Vegas and they're somewhere else at a property, she does like a Zoom with them. But every new hire, no matter what level, she takes 5 minutes or 10 minutes to introduce herself and to hear. She wants to hear what that person who's coming on board with the company, what they're like and who they are, because she wants them to feel like they are part of a family. If we take that approach, no matter what our business is, maybe you're in the real estate industry where you've got new clients, if you take that time to really get to know them and really listen to their story, what you've done is you've touched them personally, and you've given part of yourself to them, and you've shown them you have heart. And in return, they're going to give you everything they have.
And, it's not a blanket thing that always happens. That's just, most of the time it does.
Absolutely.
Most of the time. And the ones that don't are scared of that listening part.
Yeah.
Like, they can have other issues you don't even know about. So it's not a magic pill.
It's not a magic bullet, but
it is something that is very magical when you apply it. And when you are known to apply it, that's another thing. People will want to work with you more because you are a listener and you are caring about them. One of the biggest ways you can do for your children, for your spouse, for business associates or anyone is to listen.
Absolutely.
It's not just in the boardroom.
Right.
It's in every relationship. If someone is in a relationship with you and you're the one that's always talking, it's not a very good relationship.
No, that's actually you need to pull up the mirror and take a look, because there's something inside of you that really needs to be changed if you're not able to really sit down and listen. Like, I think a really good example of that is, when kids become teenagers, they don't want to hear what you have to say. But if
they're all knowed up.
They're all knowed up, exactly. But if you can get them, and sometimes this is very difficult. This is an example where sometimes it doesn't always work. But if you can get them to open up to you and whatever the topic is, and they actually feel like you're hearing them rather than, well, it's mom or dad and they're gonna tell me what to do. If you can actually get them to maybe get that little teeny spark of, oh, they might actually be hearing me, that's gonna change that relationship. And again, it's certainly especially when it comes to kids, it's no magic bullet, but in those moments where you can connect at that level, it's going to be so much better.
And we are talking about leadership and not kids.
Right.
I just wanted to make the point that it works in all your relationships, not just in meetings. But it is true that the higher the level, you're dealing with higher level people. If you're on a high level and you have a team, they're pretty high level for them to be able to be with you.
Right.
And so you have some expectations there of, that they are capable of voicing what or communicating what is on their mind or whatever. But sometimes it takes a little bit because they're scared it's a trick. Why are you listening to me? I'm not on your level, so why are you listening to me? And so sometimes we have to work a little bit at that especially if you're new to a company, or if you
Yes.
come into a new team or something, don't just try this once and then
No.
throw it out saying, oh, that didn't work for me. It will work. You just have to really put it into practice and into consistently listen, consistently understand your time, consistently understand their time, because you know what? You're taking their time during meetings that
Absolutely.
they need to be working. So, I mean, be mindful of both of those things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, in the Kickbutt Leadership course, I have a couple of really good tools and things you can use to maybe amp up your listening abilities, as well as how to really help you with the whole time thing. And so you can find the course on kickbuttleadership.com. There's a free assessment so you can figure out where you are in your leadership skills and abilities and qualities. And we're running a special price. So we're going to be coming up to our next session here shortly.
I'd like to say something though about the course. I have had the privilege of, when you first talked about it, and it didn't even have a name. It was a culmination of so many things in your life that you have done and learned, and the learning curve is shortened if you want to be a leader. If you want to be a really good leader, a kickbutt leader, then the course is for you. Like if you don't care about being a leader, then you're not our flavor anyway. Like just being real.
Right.
Because this is for leaders. This is for people who want to level up again in their leadership abilities. And the practices, increase so many things in your life that don't seem to be related. I'm going to say that too. They don't seem to be related, because why would breathing help a meeting be better? But when you go through the course, there's actually statistics, there's studies, there's all kinds of wisdom in there that confirms and affirms over and over what is taught in that class. So, I mean, I think it's an important thing to understand what it really does is it will level you up in leadership, which causes you to have all kinds of better things in your business.
Well, in every module, I talk about how this particular topic is going to save you time and make you more money, because it is true. There's lots of statistics and research that's been done to back up the tools and techniques that are in there that show how not only can you become a better person, both personally as well as professionally, but you can also save time and make some more money while you're at it. So, well, we'll be back at 12 o'clock. And well, that's Central Time. That's 10 o'clock Pacific Time. And I'm Coni Meyers with Kickbutt Leadership, and this is my guest and my co-host,
Kim White with the My Sexy Business Team.
And you can check everything out at kickbuttleadership.com. Thank you, and we'll be back.